Wow. It's kind of shocking to be here. Everybody knows what a process it's been to make this film. So many of you in the audience were a part of it, and we really, thank you so much for joining us and doing what it took to get this movie made. It's opening tomorrow on 700 screens.
It's great at the theatrical release, right? The same thing.
We're an independent animation film that is unheard of. So we are extremely grateful to Blue Fox. They've done an amazing job.
Thank you, guys.
Our partners have really been with us in all kinds of escapades and also made this site possible with Esso Systems. Hope you're able to check out their the work in the lobby. But yeah, this is a really special night. Jim and I met 10 years ago, before the script was written, and it was a song and a prayer and a lot of sweat and determination, and we are so over the moon, unintended, to share this film with you tonight. So yeah, Jim Capobianco, his vision really made this all possible. So thank you, better.
You get a applause. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Robert. We go back 10 years. I met this guy. I said, he's like, what are you working on? I said, I have this idea about a film about Leonardo da Vinci. He's like, well, you know to get some money and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know anything like that. And he's like, well, maybe I can. I don't know. You were like 12 years old.
That's 13.
13. So yeah, we've been together, and I really appreciate it, Robert, that you stuck to it for this long. I mean, we've gone through so many dead ends. I would imagine we would have given up at some point. So I really appreciate how you stand like.
And then we did.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of old friends here, a lot of new friends. I appreciate all the support we've gotten. There's people here I worked with on The Lion King. I first smelled things to drink here, lodging in the hall. So this is a real historic moment for me, and a real journey for myself on my career, my road. So and I always think with a film, it's not really done until you show the audience. This is now the finish of the film. It's you guys end the creativity process for the Inventor, because it's only through when we can present it to all of you that you just, that's what it's all about. That's why we do what we do, right? We make this stuff not for ourselves, we're making it for the audience, and now we complete it here, and then tomorrow it releases everywhere. So it's just so exciting that after 12 years we've done this. So I appreciate all of you to come, and I can't wait for you all to see it. There's a couple of key people I need to thank, one of which is Kat Alioshin. Kat is our line producer. She worked way back at South Ocean, Nightmare Before Christmas, so many amazing movies she's worked on. She brought her production acumen, her knowledge of putting a team together and getting a team to work so cohesively. So France, where they seem to work a little more fly-da-view, and they just sort of, figure it out as they go along. And Kat went, no, this is how we do it, and she really made the film happen. I mean, the film wouldn't exist without Kat and Robert in this way. So it's huge. She was my roommate too in France. I don't know. And I have to thank my wife, Kim Collins. Woo! So yeah, I was traveled a lot. I was away from her a lot. She had had a lot. What do you know? I love you.
And the last person we want to thank, you saw so many of the cast, so many of the crew that put this together. They were put together by Folioscope Studios, Nicholas Flory and EVD Rose, and they too were just the third pillar of this. I just pull this off, and unfortunately they couldn't be here, but the film was going to be out in France. And
So yeah, a big thanks to Folioscope Studio. Appreciate it. And my co-director, Pierre de Grandjean, who basically taught me stop motion animation, what is hard and what is even harder to do. And I would make his eyes grow really wide when I said, hey, I got a new idea. Let's do this. But as I learned stop motion and I learned from him, I learned what was hard. And I would look at these boards that Kat made, and I would, the film's shots coming up, and I would go, okay, this is going to be difficult. I'd rethink it, go to Pierre Luc, and I'd say, well, hey, I got a new idea. And his eyes would get really big. And I'd say, no way, it's going to be like this. At least economically done and like more elegant. And he would just go, yes. A big smile. And at that point, I think we all knew we could get this film done. It was really a team effort. I worked with the best team I've ever worked with. And now you're going to see the fruits of their labor. So everyone enjoy The Inventor.
I didn't. Doing it.
Hello. So I have Alex Mandel, everybody.
And play the bass audio. Right at the beginning, so in
Whole movie, I'm like, shit. It's okay, Jim. Still love me? I definitely still love you. Okay. See you later. Okay.
well, Kat, I want to ask you the first question. Kat's our live producer. Which yeah, maybe. So Kat has a storied career working on Nightmare Before Christmas, Frankie Lee, among other animated films, stop motion animated films. For those who don't know stop motion, talk to me about how these little puppets come to life and the scale, and how do you make a king knit at that scale?
So what some of you might have seen when it came in is the size that the puppets are actual, they were used in the film. And we always based our whole sets, everything around the puppet scale. So that's kind of how sets are built, props to pay. But that's one of the longest things that takes time to make is the puppets size the set. So we start pretty early. In the old days, you sculpt the clay sculpt first. We did that with Zoroastro. He was the big guy that didn't speak much, based on Jerome Ramft, great character. So yeah, just I think I answered some of it, but yeah.
The other thing about the puppets, and you mentioned like the armature, the way they're designed, they really need to, you have to plan everything. Like you really need to know what they're going to do, because you are limited to how much they can move, unlike CG or 2D animation. So it takes a lot, like Kat was saying, a lot of planning up front, and our directing animator, Kim Cotillard, was part of that whole process, because she really needed to, I think she said, we really need to put the money into the armatures because it's going to save the money later, because you don't want the animators frustrated or the armatures breaking. I don't think we really have any armatures.
No, we for 42 weeks we used the same set of puppets. We had the most puppets we had was the Leonardo, and at that point we had 8, which is not that many. So basically a puppet per 8 animators. The most thing we changed was the hands. The hands change almost every shot, but the puppets really well made.
How many hands were there? They were crazy.
I'm going to say like 400, or I don't know, it's a huge amount of hands.
That was one person's job to make all those hands clean, or like, was it flashing?
See,
And it really is shot by shot. So every blink, there's little magnetic eyes on the eye, you take a picture, go, and
Sticker miles.
yeah, and 3 to 4 seconds per day. We're just filming for a full year after a year of construction. So Alex, I have a question for you next.
Yes.
Start a little bit about your research into this amazing cast, some folks who have not sang before, and the process of bringing their voices to life.
Well, Jim, we were talking about this. I think initially there was one song in the script, and it was Leonardo. I think it was the workshop song. Yeah. So that was a view that was intended. Jim would say, let's have it be a talking song, you know, like in Harry Potter, like some other musicals, just spoken, almost rapped. And so there's a long list of items that you wanted to describe in this workshop. So that was the first question: is can Stephen Fry rap? And the answer is yes, you can, with a little help. But then beyond that, when we went to record him sing, he just said, look, I can't sing. And luckily my daughter was around, she was 12 at the time. And I said, we rewrote it in 45 minutes, and then we had my daughter Sequoia sing the voice of Mona Lisa, who's here tonight. Sequoia, great job. Yeah. You know, the other singers, also Sequoia had shown me that Daisy Ridley could sing. It was a clip of her with Barbra Streisand, so you know, she could sing. And Marion.
Yeah, we saw this. Alex says we had this YouTube video of the Star Coded or something. Barbra Streisand and did this thing in her house and had Daisy Ridley there, and Daisy Ridley starts singing. And she's like, "This girl can sing!" And she we saw Barbra Streisand herself telling us, so we were like, "Okay, that's good." Yeah, but Steven was he did not want to sing. He really was, and he's such an amazing performer, and just a blessed man that he just was like, gave it his all to do it. He was very self-conscious about it. He did an amazing job.
For those who know Stephen Fry, he can do everything. So to not be able to sing, it's a hypnotist, a tribe. And so the fact that these two were able to pull out, all the five Steven tracks.
Let's see. He sings the workshop song, and he sings from this Tennessee Part 2. Am I forgetting one? Somebody said one. I think it was with the two, but then in a way that's, for me, it's a metaphor for the whole movie, which is we had a problem, we had an obstacle, we needed to come up with a creative solution. Often the creative solution was better. I mean, I always wondered, why did he steal Mona Lisa, which he didn't know, and bring it to France and said, well, maybe it was his muse or his inner critic or something, and he had this relationship with her. So that was just one example of many, where the obstacle kind of made something more interesting. That's it.
Jim, you did a lot of research for this film. Went to the Ambrosiana, got the stamp of approval from them for the film. A lot of people have been very curious and kind of surprised at how much is actually fact in this film. Can you talk about what is actual historical events and what's not?
All of it is. And they really look like that too. It's not a documentary, so it's an animated film. So you did have to, like any movie made of a real life person, there's like liberty taken, and so for this especially there was, but everything is based in fact. So in a fact or a truth. So that's why we have it in the beginning, based on the events in Leonardo's life. So. Like the lion really existed. He really created a robotic kind of lion that moved. There's actually eyewitness accounts of this, so if you could believe that, that's pretty cool. It didn't quite look like this. It's probably was a smaller scale. It probably didn't move as elegantly as this did. And Oscar's wonderful gear work that he did. I mean, those gears in there, the animator could just move like one thing and it would move all the gears. That's how precise the prop maker who put that all together was an armature maker. And then, the other thing that's truthful is they really wanted to take the Last Supper away from Milan and rip a wall out and drag it all the way to France.
With chickens.
With chickens. So that's crazy. Even Napoleon wanted to do it. So it kind of was a thing, obsession with France to get the Last Supper there. Margaret, that was something I discovered in the reference or researching. Originally it was like Leonardo will go to France to teach the young king, that story of the, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Luke Skywalker. And in my research about King Francis, I learned about Marguerite, his sister, and how amazing of a woman she was. She's considered the first Renaissance woman. She wrote her own books. She had
Queen Elizabeth was the only book she carried everywhere, every day of her life. And that was one, I had never heard that, but once you were aware of Marguerite, you start finding all these little tidbits spread around it about her.
It's just an amazing woman and powerful and very savvy. And she actually, her brother later on gets, in the war with Spain, gets captured and is in prison. And she negotiated his release from prison and got it out and stuff. So, it was discovering Marguerite that actually made the whole story happen, because then I could go, oh, this is really interesting, this kind of triangle between the three characters. And then you add Louise in there, and it made it rich for me in a way that I think made it different from other types of movies. And she's just, I love that character. And Daisy did an amazing job in her voice.
I think there's a Marguerite in the audience as well. So
She's here.
Kat, Jim spoke a little bit about, the early sort of what we call puppet gymnastics, really testing the movements. And Kim Cookling was our animation supervisor, works a lot with Wes Anderson. She was so full of life about how this type of animation was much more cartoon and alive. Can you talk a little bit about some of the more challenging shots with this, or is there sort of one most challenging shot that you're really, proud of?
To speak of Kim as well, she was so amazing because she came to this job right off of Pinocchio, and I was really fearful that she was going to break some of that. The lengthy time that Pinocchio could spend on certain shot, they were spending a week on one shot. We had like a day. So I was worried she was going to come in and do that. She didn't. She was so professional. And it was actually a little tricky for her and her team. A lot of animation right now, stop motion animation is sort of, it's a realism. It's a real smooth movement.
Showing
lines. And so we choose sometimes 4, so they depend on the shot. I would say we ended with one of the part of the shot really was the flying, all the characters kind of coming around and flying, and that was very difficult to pull off.
The hardest shot was the last shot we shot, I think, which was that pull out from Leo Dad because the camera stopped in mid shot, and that was the last day of shooting. We really needed to get it done that day. And then we had this camera rig. It was a very small Moco camera, and it would always do us problems. I would actually look at that board I mentioned earlier. I would actually look at shots coming up that use that camera to rethink it and not use that camera. So the last shot we're shooting, we had the camera shot, and it stopped in the middle. The Patricia, our animator, just was like, and it took 2 hours or more to actually get it going again. And we didn't know we had to reshoot the shot and everything. But then what happened is he's screaming up at the heavens. Because he's screaming, there is a little camera shaking that you never know it because of what happened in the shot. So we so lucked out that was it, and you could see it. So there were a lot of serendipitous moments in this movie that just sort of should we take some questions from the audience?
Yeah, let's do it. Does anybody in the audience have a question?
Have to yell it.
Far in the back.
Thank you for showing the Caribbean that.
Hello, of course.
In American audience context, you see that and war references, but are you having any issues with that?
I don't know. Robert, you can nail them.
No, I mean, this is all art, right? And you can go to a museum and see the thing.
That was an advert that I asked me.
Sure.
I don't know if there's a little controversial in the comfort box. So let's see how we go. Let's see let's get bar. We can't worry about the Pope, there. So that's waiting for the Catholic Church.
we did have somebody who invested in the film have to clear it with his Eric in order to pass first, which what all great. You had any other questions from the audience?
What is what was an option with 2D animate? What was the thinking behind that or
Okay, yeah, I wanted to make a film with the two handcrafted art forms because it's very Leonardo da Vinci to me. And it came down to pretty much the stop motion world is the real world, quote unquote. And then the drawn animation is why it's a fancy, it's imaginations, it's all that. So it really came from this idea because I love mixing up the mediums. I've done that with a lot of my projects I've worked on. Marion was reaching out here from the Rad. And now these films, and even this film I made called Philharmonia Fantastique, which is like a Fantasia piece that plays with symphonies, and that has some live, it uses a real live orchestra and stuff. So I love putting this stuff together. And those two forms are very Da Vinci, like stop motion is like arbitrary puppets, skeleton, a lot of alchemy, working with your hands, and drawn animation obviously to sketches and all that. So that was the thinking, and I think I've been getting a lot of compliments on how seamless it goes. So I think that's because it's in the fabric of the storytelling.
So I'm a little bit curious as to why you decided to do the biopic of an inventor in general, and then why Da Vinci specifically. And if the interest started with specifically doing a film about Da Vinci, or if there were any other like historical inventors and innovators that you were thinking about doing a biopic on.
And well, this film sort of grew out of a short film I made called Leonardo, and then it was a drawn animated short, and that short, basically that has a thing flying. It's really focused on this flying machine, and I wanted to make a short about a guy with a flying machine because I thought that's sort of silly, this idea of man crafting wings and flying seems funny to me and jumping off a cliff. So, but it also points to like somebody reaching for the impossible dream and aware of that impossible thing. So then I thought, well, maybe I have a character do that. But then I was like, well, maybe Leonardo da Vinci later on with that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, I've never seen an animated movie with Leonardo da Vinci in it. So I can make that because I have the power of animation. So I made the short, and then the short begot this feature film. So in a way, I never thought to do a different, film about Michelangelo, or it's threw it in here, but it just was going to be Leonardo da Vinci. And, Leonardo, there's a fact too, it's true, they didn't like each other, Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. They really had a rivalry. And Leonardo thought he was a dirty man because he worked at sculpture. Because Leonardo wasn't really a sculptor. He didn't really do that. He was trying to make this giant horse that was like 30 feet tall. It's giant. Because he couldn't think small. He always said to do something big because it actually challenged the time to actually cast something in bronze that big. And he wanted to design the molds and stuff that was what he was more interested in, was the alchemy of it and pulling it together. How would you do it than actually the thing itself? So I digress. It's the next movie.
Yes, please.
Actually, the artist is elaborated and spelling out about the Leonardo. This one. Not that Leonardo. When you went to the library, and Leonardo DiCaprio. Not that Leonardo.
Yeah, I was getting more research books on Leonardo, and then the girl at the librarian, she was just like, anyway, kind of like a channel. It's I got that question actually out there too, and it kind of stumped me a little bit. I actually shifted to Marguerite, but I already talked about Marguerite. So, I don't know, it's just such a process that I've been learning about it so long. It's a hard one for me to go back and go, okay, you guys,
I like to me the story that he didn't own the Mona Lisa, that a patron commissioned him to make it, and he painted it. And then he was like, I like this, and I'm not going to give it to the patron, but because he was famous and the patron didn't want to be gauche, like, give me my painting, so they would all transit around a little bit, and then he went to France and took it with him. I thought that was pretty funny. So then everybody's like, well, why did he do that? What was so fascinating to him about the Mona Lisa? It still have to be done, I guess.
Yeah, and he never thought the Mona Lisa was finished. Yeah, he had this thing about it.
No, not it.
I think it's still though. I think there's some layers of it. I mean, the ideal city, the fact. I mean, there's. You want to talk about the quotes? They're also directly from Da Vinci. I mean, it's just layer on layer upon layer. I mean, studies in geology and the breadth of work in such a short Isaac's.
I think the one thing I always appreciate about him in that sense is that a lot of it's an interesting fact. Like a lot of stuff it started to deteriorate in his lifetime. It wasn't like it took years for it to fall apart because he painted it in this new way. Because he didn't like to do things fast, and painting a fresco, you have to paint fast. So he invented a different way to paint, but it failed. That doesn't really work because the painting started to fall apart, even though we consider it a great masterpiece. And I think it's at a cafeteria at the Santa Maria delle Grazie, and the priests and who used it were very upset because he would paint it and leave and then come back and take from forever. And then he ended up painting it wrong for them, and it started falling apart for them. So they weren't very happy about it.
All right, we'll do 2 more questions. Yeah.
I was curious that what you was doing. What you did, dinosaur or did the all?
Good cut.
And then someone and
What part? I'm sorry.
Louise and Byron.
Oh, she's. I remember now. Sorry. She's doing. It's the symbols, the heraldry of the court. So I think it's a salamander. That's why, so that's why I need a salamander.
Yes, they.
What advice do you give for leading an independent animated film?
And it's going to be a long road. So.
We have to sideboard that one.
It's. It really doesn't happen, and just know that going into it. And here we are.
Thank you, guys.
And I'll thank you. Please share with your friends and family. Help us get the word out, and join us for a soiree after, just downstairs here. We are also selling some limited run of Inventor wine that is just outside of the studio where we shot this in France.
Yeah.
And
we worked in the greatest region of France, in the Rhone River region, and that's just best wine, best food. It's like the bread basket. It was just so wonderful. So this wine is from that region. We actually would drink this wine. We're making the film, which is why the film looks this way. And so we brought it here. So we have bottles if you guys want to buy some. It's wonderful wine. The other thing is, back to the film, I just want to make sure we don't forget this. If you go to TheMovieReport.com, you can find the theaters where the film is playing. Because it is an indie film, it's maybe not be that theater right next door that you usually go to, like a big, or that fancy art house you love. But they're around, so I want everybody to make sure. And send it to your families and friends and everybody, send it out across the country.
it's also this QR code right there.
It's really good. I know it is, sorry. See the back of me.
And the last thing is we're auctioning, it's a little hard for us to separate, but we're auctioning a very limited edition actual puppet use in the film of Leonardo da Vinci. So that too, you can check out downstairs.
We all say that.
Thank you all. Thanks for coming out and coming out. You did. You do. Thanks for sitting through the Q&A, Jake.
Wife, me here.